Well, happy Monday, friends. It's the Striker TLS podcast. We're back to review another Copa Texas match. Austin takes the spoils, goes back to first place as the Houston Dynamo try and figure out what went wrong once. And FC Dallas went to Sporting Kansas City. They thought they were going to get their first road win of the year. Not to be 2-2 draw with Kansas City. We'll get to those games and look forward to next weekend in Texas. But first, Bils Araiza. This doesn't happen very often, or at least happen very often in 2021. We got what the best Golazos is. All Texas MLS teams with candidates, I would say at least one team, multiple candidates, because FC Dallas, Alan Velasco had that free kick, kicks out the back corner, amazing goal. And then a couple minutes later, Jesus Ferreira with a little bit of individual glory. I don't know if either one of those were better than Sebastian Derussi's winner, or as 45-yard bomb from
61 yard according to Opta.
61. Sorry, didn't get the measuring stick out and don't know how far the halfway line is apparently. But what's your pick, boys? Top goal of the weekend first over here.
Oh boy. Man.
You weren't ready? There's only
I know. Four. You're ripping off my guy Danny P.
Yeah, to be fair, the Pareto goal was also nice. I don't know that I would classify that one as like Golazos' other ones are. It's a good goal. I mean, look, any goal is a good goal. Austin FC seems to be scoring for fun. So, I mean, appreciate you stumping here. If you want to pick that one, you're welcome to. We're just going to dunk on your take. But what's your best goal of the weekend?
It's Ferreira. It's the 61-yard bomb. I think that you see those attempted often, and I thought Stuver, he was close to getting back, and obviously the injury happens, which kind of maybe takes away from the moment a little bit, especially if you're coming from the Austin perspective. But I mean, that thing was placed perfectly, and just the height, the strike that he put on that ball was. You don't see that every day. I think that
he gets it right on target, and then the guy comes out after the game and he says. He said, I actually touched it wrong, so I knew I had to take a little extra step. And then I got it, and boom, there you go. Hit it.
Yeah.
I agree that you do see guys go for that. Franco Hara tried to do it for FC Dallas late in a winner and didn't come anywhere near putting on target. He also didn't have as much time as Sebastian Ferreira did. You're both going with the bomb. I feel like the goalkeeping is a little... I feel like it's a debate.
We can get into that. I feel like we can get into that on the Austin.
Yeah, that's fine. But I mean, it's one of those where it kind of like lets marinate for a moment. The fans are kind of wondering, like looking up, like wondering if it's going to come down, and then boom, and then the whole stadium, all
it did come down.
All 3,000 of them erupted. Yeah.
Wait, what was that number?
I'm lying. We had a little more than 3,000, but.
Yeah, but okay. I did want to let the game. Let's get into it because it's clear neither of you guys.
Wait. John, what's your favorite goal?
Ferreira goal is the best one to me.
Mm-hmm. Which Ferreira?
To me, I think the Jesus Ferreira goal is the best goal, and partly I think it's because it's like a team move that FC Dallas puts together. It combines team with individual brilliance because FC Dallas wins the ball back, sets up the opportunity, and then Ferreira kind of takes and does the rest. He beats 3 Sporting Kansas City and then beats the goalkeeper. It's certainly not as like jaw-dropping as even Alan Velasco's free kick a few minutes earlier. It's something as this free kick this bomb from midfield from Ferreira. But I just felt like I guess like I'm not trying to go, but it seems like a more pure goal, more of the essence mix up.
No, I think it's whatever you like, right?
Bad goalkeeping and not luck. No, for sure. I think that's a very good point.
It's a matter of taste.
In the comments or tell us on the.
Jersey is the only winner.
Tell us what your favorite.
Wait,
and it was Jersey was a darn good goal too, man.
It was, and but it's becoming pretty standard for him. I don't even think it's shocking when he scores a goal.
Well, that's one thing I want to get into a little bit later in the show. But let's get into first. I'll recap our look back at Austin beating the Houston Dynamo. Victor, the Dynamo go up again, and I watching back that there was still a bit of momentum after that Sebastian Ferreira goal. Chris Austin has to make the change, and it seemed like the Dynamo were looking to try and make it 2-0. Never came, and then the collapse come. Austin finding opportunities that then later turned into goals. Sebastian Grusi with the as we mentioned, as Austin goes place. LAFC every freaking week they're playing on Sunday. They bump our Texas boys down every week. They're always playing Sunday. They always win. LAFC still tops in the Western Conference, but Austin is right there. One of the I do in 2022. A Texas team will be on top of the Western Conference. We'll see if it lasts.
Ooh.
But it is always, I think, fun for Austin. So we're top of the West. We're top of the West, and the next day, not
for a day.
But yeah. Victor, as I mentioned, that early goal, the Dem can't defend. They were pushing the rest half, and then it seemed like, the equalizer kind of lets the air out of the balloon a bit. What did you make of the Dynamo's first half? A good start that they couldn't keep following up.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is important because it's obviously a player that, we know that hasn't been receiving a lot of service. Here's a guy that lives up to the moment, right? Says, I'm just going to take this one, try to make something out of nothing. And that's what you want out of a difference maker, right? That's why you paid millions to get a guy like this. Somebody that's going to, drop of a dime, just give you something. And for Houston, I think it was such a gut punch to Austin, right? It took him out of the game a little bit. And it was such a relief for Houston, who was getting, in a way, bombarded in just the first few minutes. After this goal, Austin still has possession. I thought it was, that side of it was kind of maybe a little bit embarrassing, because here's a Houston, right, that talks about wanting to be possession with a purpose, right? They're in their own house, and Austin's essentially just took the ball away from them, playing with it in their own house. They couldn't get a couple goals, and that was Austin's problem. Eventually, the dam broke, but Houston, I don't think there was enough urgency to get that second goal, to put this game away, to give the knockout blow to Austin. And again, just like they did with Dallas the previous week, they allowed this Texas rival to get back into the game and to take the game for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, Darwin Quintero had a couple chances that won the 11th minute that Ender Tarbell saved just right after coming on the pitch. The one in the 21st minute, he got a lot of power behind it, but, pretty close to Tarbell. Another good save, though, and I thought that was – I mean, that stretch is really, we talked about it after the match on our
right.
post-game
But he almost has to be perfect for Houston to win these games. It's what I've said earlier in the year, because unless it's a Vancouver or somebody like that who's going to allow you to get back into the game, those shots don't come back. And then once he's off the field. That
was the stretch for Houston to really grab a hold of this.
And then I think so too. I think it should have been 2-0. And once to Victor's
settles back in.
Point. Sorry, real quick point. Ferreira ends the game as the player who went 90 minutes with the fewest touches. He had 16 touches total, including, I guess, maybe 2 on that shot, as you're mentioning, Victor. But, you got to get the guy more involved. You got to get him more into the play. It's just not – and I don't know how many of those touches were in the final third. But, look, you say, 7, 8 touches. It's not enough for your forward. And yeah, like, he shouldn't have to make these glorious plays happen. Austin is able to get into the game after weathering a bit of an early start. I guess we can call it from the obviously there's the goal the in the stadium, even if it wasn't a full PNC, and there are plenty of Austin fans that travel as well, but I think the home fan advantage, people behind the home team, people are excited after that early goal. It would have been easy with the backup goalkeeper. Austin doesn't. They hold on, and then you see the turn.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really a credit to what this team's gotten better at is figuring out what a game needs. The first, 5-10 minutes, it's kind of remarkable. I think just big picture for a second, how shocking and how much anxiety there was in the air when you see Brad Stuver go down. Here's a guy that we wouldn't have even thought would be in this position a year ago, and it's like
nobody probably gives 2 cents for Tarbell.
It's like and it's like is the sky falling? Brad Stuver's down, and we don't know how bad the injury is. It turns out it's a right knee laceration. We don't know exactly how long he'll be out at this point, but no structural damage. So I would think probably a month or less, but we'll see. We'll see on that front. Depending on how quickly he heals and all that. But
Tarbell looked good too. It looked
exactly.
It looks like the goalkeeping room is there.
And that's the thing, right? Andrew Tarbell, a lot of us thought that he would be the starter coming in here. He's got plenty of MLS experience. Was just in the MLS Cup playoffs, helping with the Crew getting and winning that championship a couple of years ago. So, I mean, certainly, you've got good hands, and if he's, if he can find some form here with a little bit of a run, I don't think you have to worry too much. And plus, Drew fits fine in that stew spot. So like if fans at Q2 are looking to keep that trend going, it works. So it's fine. But I think, just before I let you guys chime back in, the way that Austin's able to sort of figure out what a game needs. I think they wanted to turn this thing into a little bit more of a track meet, playing, with the more athletic fullbacks of Nick Lima and John Gallagher. It wasn't really working out. They couldn't really get through those wide areas. In fact, I think, watching this one back, Houston did a really good job of pressuring and in the wide areas. And that was, sort of what led to that first goal, is Danny Pereira getting stuck out wide and Houston doing well to pressure. And then they brought more numbers middle. You see Diego Faguda start to drift a little bit more middle. You see Sebastian Drusi start to drop back a little bit deeper. Those are the things that Austin's getting much better at, is sort of,
and that's where Houston lost
sort
it.
sort of scrapping. You sort of scrap the initial game plan and you do what the game needs, and they've been able to do that several times throughout the season. So I think it's a big credit to Josh Wolf, the coaching staff, but also the players on the field to figure that out on their own.
So real quick, Austin, one for Houston. I'm going to stay with Chris and then move to Victor. Chris, when does the Drusi MVP hype start? Is it already starting? Is it too soon? Because to me, he's been the best player in the league.
I think it started. And let me just yeah, exactly. I think he's the best player in the league right now. I mean, certainly, Nico Odero is playing well in CONCACAF Champions League, and there's plenty of good players that are gonna have their say in that. But that was always the big question for me, is how much help could Austin give Drusi, because the moment that I first saw him on the pitch, he reminds me of a couple of guys that are maybe among the best to ever do it in this league. To me, his age profile, his effort on the field, it reminds me of Nico Odero when he first came into the league, and also of Sebastian Jovinko. And I know that's high praise, but I think he's up to it, guys. I don't know, I don't know what slows him down, as long as Austin's getting him the ball and teams don't figure out a way to stop him. I just don't know how you do, because he's so active. He runs so much. He works so hard, and the moments of magic that he's able to produce, are, it's at another level. It's what you pay. It's what you pay the $7 million for.
Yeah, I think
and if they make the Supporters Shield run, he's going to be in the conversation
for sure. And then that's the question mark.
Him in before here, I think, was massive. The fact that he's able to have an adaptation period to the league, and those freshmen ball, a lot of these players come into MLS go through. They certainly took his lumps last year, as did all of Austin. Now he's flying most goals in the league, by far the most assists in the league, which shows the team chemistry, the passing moves that they're able to put together. They're scoring a lot of, they're really getting close to goal. They're really getting good opportunities, and they're putting them away. A big win for Austin FC. Talk a little bit about them moving forward here in a couple of minutes, but I want to talk about Houston Dynamo looking forward, Victor, because where does this leave the Dynamo? They've lost now 2 rivals in a row. It's a bit of a rough scheduling quirk, I think, because, listen, if we're on this show talking about the Dynamo losing 2 to the Colorado Rapids or something the week after they lose 2-1 to FC Dallas, kind of like, yeah, whatever, they can bounce back. But when you lose to 2 Texas rivals 2 weeks in a row, it does seem to me, at least from the outside, to heap added frustration. I don't know if you want to call it pressure.
The biggest thing,
like, where do they go?
The biggest thing is that they've had 9 games. They've only won 6 of those at home. They've only won 3. Their toughest opponents, especially at home, you can say are Portland and Austin, right? But really, I think Portland has been the one contender they faced. Now, from here on out, it gets a little tougher, right? They have 2 more home games. Seattle and Nashville, I don't think are going to be easy teams coming in here. And then you start a long road stretch. It's going to get tough. And that's why I think, but it also depends what the end goal is. And that's kind of what I put up on my 3 thoughts on strikertexas.com, where it's, if they want to be an MLS Cup, right? I think there's an opportunity here. There's a window here. I've mentioned it, especially with Achat just coming straight from Europe. If you want to capitalize on this, the time to move is now, right? The time to act is now. If you're just fine with competing and just getting into the playoffs, which, based on my comments, it seems like a lot of Dynamo fans are, then you're right on track.
Chris, Austin is obviously on track. There has been some criticism, and I think fairly so, about the quality of opponents change in the next month. You can only beat who's in front of you, and in front of Austin in the next month is the LA Galaxy, Real Salt Lake, LAFC. Maybe that's the day Austin finally is able to jump in the standings. Austin plays Orlando and goes to LA Galaxy again. So you're going to be seeing the LA team, some conference rivals, a little bit of out of conference there. But, I guess, like, in a way, it matter whether Austin's been feasting on cream puffs. In a way, they're about to find out. There's a prove it stretch coming here.
Right.
Is Austin ready for it, and what do they have to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, we talked about this Houston game as being the beginning of that test, and they passed it, and we're still talking about it because Houston loses another game, and now we start asking questions about Houston. So it feels like every team that Austin beats, it takes that team down a peg.
You get to diminish because they have a loss after losing to Austin. Yeah, it's fair.
So that's kind of an interesting side to this, but I think that and I was reading Matt Doyle's column over at MLS, which he pointed out that he had 14 paragraphs where he talked lovingly about Austin FC, and one where he sort of said maybe, and that's the one that the Austin fans are jumping on. Look, listen, Austin and its fans and whoever's running the social media account are feeling themselves, and rightfully so. I don't know if you saw last night, the admin from the Austin FC Twitter account said, if you want something done right, do it yourself, and sort of pointed to the meeting that they have coming up with LAFC. So we'll see if they're still at the top of the table, and if LAFC is still at the top of the table by the time that one rolls around. But I think Austin's in a really good spot, and to me, it's not even. You can look at XG, you can look at, transition play. You can look at all these things that Austin maybe still needs to get a little bit better at. But to me, the big thing is the mentality and the togetherness of this group, even with all the things that are floating around the outside, with Cecilio Dominguez being suspended, with Brad Stuver now being injured. It just seems like this team is sort of floating on air right now, and they've got the teddy bear Tick Martins popping up on Instagram. It's just a silly, fun group, and you mentioned Sebastian Drusi, and last thing on him, but like he's sort of a magnet. Like it's not like one of these stars that comes in and he just is trying to get his. He's really a magnet, it seems like, and everybody loves playing with him. He seems to love playing with this team. And so I think those are the intangibles that can carry you through an MLS season. So it makes me maybe somewhat less concerned about the underlying metrics when you're pulling off comebacks like they did in DC and in Houston.
Last one before we get to FC Dallas's draw with Sporting Kansas City. How was the vibe, guys? You can only tell so much from the YouTube highlights on TV. There was some concern in a nice article from Phil West, and some of you guys I know helped as well, about the fan incident that had happened last year. Some concerns about maybe safety from fans. Of course, that's a big topic in world soccer in general, and also in MLS as fans continue to show up and mostly create great environments, but occasionally do bad things, wrong things that lead to arrests, etc. What was the vibe? How was the atmosphere? And did anything go down that we need to talk about?
I'll let you start with that, Victor.
Not that we know of. Obviously, I want to give props to Phil.
Good. Good. I'm glad.
Because I think he got all sides of the story in his article, for as much of flack as he's getting. Also, Theo, I think we had some good coverage all around last week actually, on the striker. And I mean, I think inevitably these are going to happen. We've seen them happen in matches over the years, right? FC Dallas, Houston, we're seeing him here. I think even maybe FC Dallas, Austin. I think it's just some of those things where the club's got to keep some of the fans honest, and you praise the teams for trying to keep everything civil, and that's as much as you can ask for. And I think for the most part, I think the camaraderie is there, right? I don't think there is a major problem, but it's just one or two bad apples that end up messing it up for everyone.
Right. Chris, good vibe in the stadium. A lot of traveling Austin fans.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of traveling Austin fans. Maybe a little less than there was for the Texas games last year, maybe because of some of that, all the hoops that I think that
Yeah.
they were jumping
Maybe
through.
the timing. I think the timing had
Yeah, I
more to
think
do
the
with it.
time makes it
Yes.
because it's like, I mean, even my brother, who's a member of Los Verdes, was like, well, do I spend the night Friday? Do I just go and go
Right.
back? Like, what do I kind of, it was a weird time for travel because it's a short trip, it's a quick trip, it's an easy trip. But at the same time, it's like
You
an
got to be there.
awkwardly timed. You're not sure if it's like away day, hell yeah, I'm staying, I'm going to do cultural activities, I'm going to try out breweries, I'm going to do all this stuff, or if it's just like going back. So anyway, I think I
Yeah, but
probably had a fair
and
amount to do with it.
also I think it needs to be said, I was a little bit maybe disappointed in the overall number of people in the stadium. It was a great atmosphere for the people that were there. A good game. The Ferreira goal, I think, made things kind of pop off early. The Dynamo. I love the tifo there. They have the nice big tifo, but also I saw one that said "Somos." What is it? "Somos pocos pero locos."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
And
always a.
yeah, yeah,
That
and it's true.
unfortunately too often that has seemed to be the Dynamo supporter motto.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't think I share the same thing. I mean, I don't
And
think
FC Dallas.
I don't think that has to do with time. I think that's we've gotten into it. I think it's a longer conversation. Houston, Dallas have the same thing. It's
Right.
getting
Yes.
people out there, and it's
Yeah,
it's
we don't need
getting
to beat a dead
a
horse,
little
but I mean
relevant.
that's the
Well,
one thing that I felt being in there is like
listen,
same thing as every time I
transitioning.
go to Houston, I'm like, great stadium, great
Yes.
place, great
Yes.
location.
Yes.
Why aren't there more people in the seats?
Yeah, I was gonna
It is
say,
what it is.
I'm asking you guys about the vibe. Like, I always really like doing games in the stadium. I think it's a nice facility. The media setup. I mean, I know fans don't care about that and shouldn't, but like, it's always nice to be able to go outside to like be able to like hear what the fans are yelling and kind of get that feel. And Sporting Kansas City is actually one of my favorite places to go to in MLS. I haven't been there for quite some time. I missed last year's FC Dallas away trip, but was back this year to see FC Dallas draw 2-2 with SKC. An early penalty meant that FCD was playing from behind, but beautiful goals, as we mentioned earlier. One on a free kick from Ellen Velasco, one from the run of play from Jesus Ferreira had FC Dallas leading heading into the halftime break, leading heading into the hour mark. And then as FC Dallas looks to make sure, hey, let's keep this calm, let's get this across the line, our first road win of the season. They take Ziki, the midfield, rookie, the somewhat surprise starter. They take him out. He had a uncareful, is that a word? And not careful yellow card in the first half. They take him out. Hey man, okay, chill out. It's your first start. Congrats. In comes Brandon Cervania, the veteran hand, and out goes Brandon Cervania, the veteran hand. Less than 7 minutes of play, he saw 2 yellow cards. I think both of them totally deserved. That's a red. You can't keep playing after that. FC Dallas goes down to 10 men and eventually concedes to Sporting Kansas City. A 2-2 draw that extends FC Dallas's league leading 7-match unbeaten streak, but also means that quest for the first road win continues. This weekend, it's the Seattle Sounders, coming either off of celebratory moments as they win the CONCACAF Champions League or abject depression as they lose the CONCACAF Champions League. So it'll be interesting. We'll talk a little bit on the site this week on the Striker Texas about kind of what it's going to be like to play the Sounders coming off the CONCACAF Champions League final. But for FC Dallas, Bills, this was one where I really, really thought in the press box, a beautiful press box, as I mentioned, open air in Kansas City. I'm like, oh, this is the one. FC Dallas is going to kind of plant their flag as a team who can win on the road, who can do it all. And then you have this moment, and it's like,
man,
yeah.
it's so as you're laying this out, it's so reminiscent of almost exactly a year ago when Austin went to Sporting Kansas City, was sort of riding the high of those 2 back-to-back wins, and then Alex Ring goes off with a red card, and they sort of collapse late. These things tend to happen at Children's Mercy Park, and
and
that's
what I
what I
was
wanted
going to
to.
say, atmosphere-wise, like the team is doing poorly. SKC is off to their worst start. I don't know mathematically and how long, but like it's not what you expect from a Peter Vermees team. It wasn't a sellout, but like the atmosphere was still good. The Cauldron is still, fiery. The fans are still singing in the entire thing. That stadium is so good at, trapping the noise, and the sound is really well mixed. It's a very nerdy thing to notice, but like at FC Dallas, it's rough, man. It's really, really difficult to hear like what the PA announcer is saying. The music is playing, it's too loud, you can't talk to people next to you, whatever. They've got it right, and it shows. It's something that blends into the background. I'm sure if you go every week to Sporting Kansas City games, when you're in Toyota Stadium and then you go on these road games like we do, for the Striker Texas to cover these teams, you like notice, man, it sounds great in here. And I thought it was a credit to Sporting Kansas City fans that even though things haven't started very well, it was not the best weather. There was a big storm that rolled through the night before. They were still out in big numbers for a team that ultimately needed a push, needed their support, and got it with this late goal.
Yeah, for sure. Did you notice the Missouri football team floating around?
I did. I saw a little drink water. The former App State coach, I think, he did the pregame hype.
Yeah, he was on the broadcast. He said the whole team was there. I was like, man, maybe children, maybe they have problems with attendance when they're inviting a whole college football team.
80 plus kids plus the hangers-ons. I didn't see them in a block or anything, but they could have been. Anyway, maybe they're in the good seats. Not
to take it away from what was a really good game.
No, it was a good game. I think for FC Dallas, Nico Esteves was frustrated with the officiating, not because of the red card necessarily, but I think that the penalty on Jose Martinez, for me, it's a penalty. But I definitely think that after Cervania sees two quick yellow cards that obviously lead to a red. Then Johnny Russell commits a foul. Maybe 5 minutes later, he's already on a yellow, and it was just blown as a common foul. And I think if he doesn't already have a yellow, it's a yellow. And I understand kind of the frustration. The other frustration was just that Hima Zagafi, the referee, just went to his book extremely early. Like, it was just like, and not even like, I'm not saying like, minute one. I'm just saying like 4 fouls that I would like to see managed. A word, a conversation, a warning. Hey, we've all seen 1, 2, 3, 4. Next time I'm giving you a card. It just seemed to be to the book. And I understand FC Dallas's frustration with the referees. I thought it was funny that both Esteves and Alan Velasco, who we spoke with, were like, listen, I don't really want to talk about this. It's not my favorite to complain about the referees, but if you're asking, and then they were kind of like laying out their frustrations and complaints. And it's like, I mean, we are asking. Like that's part of the media's responsibility and role is to ask about these things. But I think for FC Dallas, in a way, it's frustrating, but it's encouraging because these are the games they were losing last year. These are the games where they go down 1-0 early and there's no response. This game, there is a response. I think away from home, especially, there's still not enough cohesion in the final third. And this attacking trio looks very good on paper and sometimes has these moments like the goals where Alan Velasco scores a great free kick goal. Paul Arriola sets up Jesus Ferreira for the amazing goal from the run of play. These moments are still a little too few and far between. I actually think it's a breakdown farther back. I think the midfield is not doing enough to get those players the ball in dangerous situations where they can do what they do best, which leads to those players sinking back, and getting too many of their touches in the midfield or even farther back. Maybe we'll work that out a little bit on the Striker Texas this week. But I think that you can still be encouraged by what you've seen from Velasco so far. He's your highest profile signing. He's the highest dollar signing. This is only his second goal of the season, but it feels like he's been much more impactful than that. He's had so many assists. He's had great scoring chances. You just need to make sure that he, Arriola, and Ferreira are getting into the game. The fact that they did on the road against a team that's struggled so far, even if the FC Dallas doesn't get all 3 points, I think is encouraging. The fact that the team is on the longest unbeaten streak in the league, I think is encouraging. And look, I think the fact that Nico Esteves is managing this team in a way where you can see him fixing the issues that are popping up very quickly, trying out different things, Tiki sliding into the midfield. Matt Hedges had a baby. Congratulations to Matt and his family. So Kosi Tafari slots in. No difference. I mean, the back line is still strong, even though they concede 2 goals. I think this is, look, all 3 of our teams are much better this year. Mm-hmm. Everyone's a better team. And I think FC Dallas is certainly...
It makes it so much fun, and that's what,
It's way better.
One of the things that we talked about before the match, and I think coming out of it, is like, if you win Copa Tejas this year, you're making the playoffs. That's my feeling, at least. Like, you're making the playoffs. Maybe all 3 teams make the playoffs, but... I just think that it makes those games matter so much more that there's not just the
it's
trophy.
Not a consolation prize.
Right.
It's like Cascadia Cup, where it's something you can brag about on the way to potentially getting more silverware. All right, let's call it. Who do you think is going to be the top? Ooh. Give me the Texas finishes right now, today, May 2nd, whenever we're wrapping up the season in, I don't even know when, as we're getting prepared for the World Cup, October or something. What's the final standings? Because I mean, this is Call me a homer if you want to, and I'm repping the Mavs tonight. I don't rep FC Dallas. I think it's FC Dallas, Austin FC, Houston Dynamo as far as the Texans finish. Victor, am I crazy?
I'm gonna go different. I think Austin will give the regular season a bit more importance because of the Supporter Shield.
You think they'll be in the race the entire time?
I think they'll make it a point to keep up, right? So I think for that reason that Austin, Dallas won't be too far behind, and Houston will be somewhere close to the playoff line, maybe in or out. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I think Austin, Dallas, Houston as well, and I hear what Victor's saying about the Supporter Shield. I don't know that they'll be that high, but I just think that there's something.
I don't know if LAFC cares about it that much. I think.
It's an interesting argument. And we can get into that more as things go, but because it's a longer discussion that we were having a little bit in the stadium is like who's going to grab hold of the Supporter Shield this year, because it does feel a little bit more level, and maybe there is an opportunity for a team like Austin to put more into the regular season. So it's an interesting thought and something maybe.
I think it's possible. I have a sneaking suspicion of Philadelphia or someone gets to feast on some Eastern Conference teams that maybe are not where they want to be in June, July, August, and rack up some easy points. Where when I look at the West, of course, the Quakes are the Quakes. Vancouver is struggling out of the gates. But after that, that Sporting Kansas City team that I saw on Saturday, they're not amazing. They're not bad. The Sounders are down there. They're not going to stay down there. The Timbers are down there. They're not going to stay down there. Nashville's starting to host games at that beautiful new stadium. I think the West is going to be an absolute gauntlet. I don't love saying it. I wouldn't be surprised if one or two of the Texas teams do slip out of the playoffs. I think we're flying high a little bit. Hopefully we don't fly so high that the sun burns our wings, melts our wings. That's a mythological illusion for you there. But we'll see. We'll see. And, of course, we'll be covering every step of the way on the Striker Texas. Good weekend.
Other thing, the question that cannot go unasked. What did you and Fern get into? What did you eat?
Yeah, well, I had my kiddo with me this weekend. We ate terribly. I mean, we ate well, but we ate really bad.
Well, it is Kansas City.
That's what you got to do in Kansas City.
I think I had never tried. I've been to Kansas City many, many times. It's a great city. The best thing I ate this week, I will say, is Q39's appetizers, the brisket poutine. Oof, it was really, really nice. Went to the World War I museum, learned a little bit about that history that kind of gets overlooked because it was followed quickly by the sequel, which, but no, it was cool to dig into that history a little bit, explore KC a bit, and check out Q39. I've never been there. I have like 8 or 9 on my barbecue power rankings now. It's in top 3. It was really, really good experience. So I'll hopefully be able to return. But yeah, Q39, we had a great time. Kansas City's a good destination, a good place. And like I said, I mean, there's not many better places to see a match. I think they do a really good job with the game day experience. The things they put on the video board actually make sense. They're not putting goofy. I mean, like they put up heat maps, right? They put up passing graphics. And of course, like, yeah, that's for the sickos, that's for the nerds. But they also put up stuff like, hey, photos with the mascot, things like that. I think they do a really good job of making sure everyone feels included. And that's going to get people returning to the stadium. Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, it's something for everyone. There's something for everyone in there. Quick shout out to our listeners. Joseph Cardenas says, great work, best MLS coverage in the league. Thank you, Joseph. And Harry Austin, our pal in San Antonio, happy Monday to us. Hope all is well. Striker Texas. It is, because we had a great weekend. FC Dallas getting the draw, Austin beating Houston. But plenty to talk about. It is on the Striker Texas, and you can subscribe over there. There's a 30-day free trial. You can check it out. We think you like what you see, and you'll stick around. The best coverage, we dare to say, of soccer in the Lone Star State. Rod Guardado also jumping in, says, thanks for your work. Thanks for listening, Rod. Appreciate it. We'll be back here next week at 10 a.m. Monday, appointment viewing on the YouTube, on Twitter. But we also love, if you're listening to this later on Monday, later on Tuesday, look, I don't even care if you're listening to it next week and you already know what happened in the games that these other teams are about to play. But we'll have previews of those on the Striker Texas. Please join up. Please subscribe. We appreciate your work. We appreciate you reading our work. We appreciate doing the work. We appreciate you funding our work, and we'll keep it going. It's a big week. We'll talk about it on the Striker Texas. Subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys next week on the Striker Texas MLS podcast. Take it.